The area was devastated and Lu Shang's energy was all over the space. With a serene gaze, Lu Shang clenched his fist. He remembered that it was said this opponent was a level 10 expert, 20 times stronger than the evil falcon. However, he had killed him with just one touch, and this seemed boring to him. His eyes began to shine with excitement as he started to recall his battle against Lan Chen. He remembered that, before receiving the inheritance, when he was still at level 8, he had already been able to fight on equal terms against Lan Chen, who was level 10. While martial energy was emerging from his hand, Lu Shang began to observe his palm carefully. Lu Shang tightly clenched his fist and his attention was fixed on it. He was somewhat surprised to have been able to kill a level 10 warrior with a single blow, and he understood that, indeed, it was not that his opponent was too weak, but that he himself was too strong. Lu Shang turned around and his attention focused on the remains of the moon. Our boy extended his hand toward the moon and his eyes widened with seriousness. He decided to fix this disaster first. He began to use his powers and repair the moon. Our boy couldn't help but smile as he was pleased with the result. Just then, a strange energy appeared in space. Lu Shang's eyes widened with curiosity, making him turn around. He didn't know what was happening. The spaceship of Crimson Eye fired a powerful purple laser beam, which began to advance quickly toward Lu Shang. Our boy had no time to react, and the laser beam hit his body directly, creating a great explosion. The subordinate of Crimson Eye, who was inside the ship, was the one who had activated the laser, and while the laser was impacting against Lu Shang's body, she began to observe in silence. Her eyes were shining with confidence. According to her, this was an annihilation level 11 shot at maximum power, and she didn't believe he would survive. Several seconds later, once the curtain of smoke created by the explosion began to disappear, Lu Shang could be seen shirtless. This was the famous annihilation cannon, capable of instantly eliminating any being below level 11. Even those at level 11 did not dare face it head-on. Her attention was fixed on Lu Shang and her eyes widened with joy and confidence. She was sure that he had died. The attack had been powerful since our boy had his body full of scratches, but he was still alive. He began to gaze toward the ground in silence. The attack had struck against his right chest. It had burned part of his skin and now the bones were visible. Despite having received so much damage, Lu Shang remained standing as if nothing had happened. The system began to show Lu Shang, and upon seeing that he was injured, the eyes of Crimson Eye's subordinate widened with joy and a smile spread across her face. According to her, Lu Shang deserved it and should go to the afterlife to keep her boss company. But at that moment, our boy focused and began to use the power of the immortal cells, which started to gather in his wounds. Lu Shang extended his arm and the cells began to regenerate his tissues and muscles. Despite feeling pain, he began to gaze toward the ground in silence. The woman's attention fixed on him and her mind filled with surprise. She did not know how this was possible. In a matter of seconds, Lu Shang's wounds healed. It was as if he had never been injured. While the immortal cells were healing his hand, our boy began to stare at her in silence, devising a plan. The woman placed her hands on the table and couldn't help but go into shock upon seeing that Lu Shang's wounds had completely healed. While our boy's eyes were shining with excitement, he began to stretch his arms and with a smile mentioned that the level 11 attack surprisingly contained a small portion of the power of rules. Even the current Star Supreme could not stop it. And this seemed interesting to him. The energy of Lu Shang appeared around the woman's body. She couldn't help but tremble and feel fear, realizing that Lu Shang was not a level 9 warrior. She didn't know what was happening or who Lu Shang was. A moment ago, when the Crimson Eye spaceship appeared behind Lu Shang, his attention focused on it and her eyes began to shine with excitement, making a smile appear on his face. 1 second before the spaceship launched the attack, Lu Shang had already detected it. But he felt that the threat was not high, so he decided to let himself be hit completely to test the strength of the Star Supreme, although the result was not entirely satisfactory for him. With an expression full of rage, the woman clenched her fist and pressed the button. She decided to activate maximum power fire. The ship's laser was reactivated. It began to charge energy, and several seconds later, a powerful burst of energy shot out toward our boy. Lu Shang clenched his fist, and while a powerful energy was emerging from it, he began to stare at it with an arrogant gaze and made it clear that he was not going to let the laser hit him again. Just before the burst of energy could impact Lu Shang, he counter-attacked using all his strength and struck the burst of energy. Lu Shang's fist struck directly against the energy blast, and little by little the difference in strength began to become visible. Evil energy began to emerge from Lu Shang's body. The winner was Lu Shang, and several seconds later, the energy blast disappeared completely, turning into a curtain of smoke. Upon seeing our boy's power, the woman fell to her knees on the ground and lowered her head before him. She did not know how this was possible. Her eyes were full of fear and confusion. She could not help but sweat, questioning whether human strength could really face a stellar weapon, and if he, after this, could still be called human. With an expression full of fear, Poison Scorpion raised her head. She had witnessed with her own eyes the moment when a single punch had dispersed the level 11 annihilation cannon. For her, this was 10 times more shocking than seeing Crimson Eye die. The ship's screen began to show Lu Shang staring at her with a penetrating gaze. Upon seeing this, she couldn't help but panic. Lu Shang began to use his power, and not long after, blood started to emerge from her mouth and eyes. She was confused as she didn't know what was happening. Not long after, she fell to the ground and lost consciousness. Lu Shang's power was so powerful that blood was emerging from her eyes and mouth, causing her terrible pain. While she was writhing in pain, Lu Shang, whose body was surrounded by martial energy, appeared inside the spaceship and began to observe her closely in silence. His eyes began to shine with joy. He extended his hand and using his power picked up her bracelet. With a smile, he decided to keep the spoils of war. He observed that the energy crystals were more than double those of Frando and Gishi, realizing that this woman knew how to manage her resources well. Lu Shang approached the panels of the spaceship and began to examine them carefully. His eyes filled with surprise realizing that this was a high-level spaceship, and this was not bad at all. He checked that in this round he had obtained more than 11,800 tons of energy crystals, 1/3 of which were black crystals, which he found very satisfying. His eyes began to shine with confidence and a smile spread across his face. With his own hands and hard work, he had been able to generate wealth. He wondered what it mattered if he came from a low-level civilization, reflecting that even if one were a poor boy coming from an inferior civilization, as long as one worked steadily on solid ground, one could also have a good life. Lu Shang put his hand under his chin and began to imagine Lan Cheng saying that this time Lu Shang could choose whatever he wanted from the treasure. He decided it was time to contact Lan Cheng. He considered that this group clearly belonged to interstellar pirates. He knew that Lan Cheng, as a guide, charged a protection fee every 10 years and theoretically also had the responsibility of protecting low-level planets from these types of invaders. After having made such an effort solving the problem for Lan Cheng, Lu Shang thought that at least she should give him a reward for this. At that moment, the spaceship's alert was activated and the system reported that the ship had been blocked by an unknown energy source. Upon hearing this, Lu Shang's eyes filled with surprise, causing him to turn around. Just then, someone fired a powerful burst of energy which hit the spaceship directly, creating a great explosion. The attack burned Lu Shang's body down to just bones, but he was still alive. He had barely recovered and was already being attacked again. His eyes widened in surprise and his attention fixed on something. Someone wearing boots and surrounded by golden martial energy appeared. Several powerful warriors appeared. The leader, who wore a mask and carried a sword, gave the order to his men to block the star region, adding that all members of the Crimson Eye pirate group must be eliminated without exception. Not a single one should be left alive. Upon hearing the order, they addressed him as Executor Full and nodded their heads. The men of Full began to search among the remains of the spaceship. While they were distracted, Lu Shang began to use the power of immortal cells to regenerate his body. He could not help but clench his teeth tightly and feel furious. He had worked so hard. He had prospered with effort, and with so much effort he had finally obtained a complete advanced ship as war booty. While Lu Shang's body was regenerating, he clenched his fist tightly and could not help but wonder if they did not know that this ship was his. His eyes began to shine with rage. He started shouting and asked them. They didn't know how much sweat he had shed for it, if they didn't know that he was saving everything to buy a habitable planet. Lu Shang made it clear that now they would have to compensate him. Upon hearing Lu Shang's voice, Lan's attention focused on him. Leaving him somewhat confused, he didn't know what was happening. With a calm gaze, Lan began adjusting the mask and started observing our boy carefully. While his mask was calculating Lu Shang's level, his eyes widened with curiosity as he observed the interstellar combat value. It was fixed at 153. He wondered if Lu Shang was still level 9, and since when did the Crimson Eye Star pirate group have level 9 members, or were they new? While Lu Shang's eyes were shining with rage, he began staring intently at Lan with a furious expression. Veins appeared on his face. He wanted to kill those bastards. This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part,